Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Will the clerk please take the attendance?
Mr. Mayor, Wayne Avery will be joining us via Zoom at 6, and all the other council members are present.
Okay, thank you. Approval of the agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Please call the roll.
Bacon?
Aye.
Brink?
Aye.
Collins? Niemeyer?
Aye.
Tilton Bird?
Aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 4, executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2.3 for purposes of consulting with legal counsel or reviewing communications from legal counsel about proposed or pending litigation or contractual matters. Entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. We move this portion of the meeting into executive session room and we'll reconvene in the chambers following. Okay, let's start this meeting. Open forum. Is there any member of the public who wishes to address the council on an item not listed on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on. And item 6, approval of consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there any public comments on the any items in the consent agenda? Does council have any questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Brink,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tiltonburn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery, Avery, Bacon.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, so we don't have an SDSU Student Association report tonight. The next one is item 7B, update Black History Month Public Library Programming. Michaela Newbauer, our Community Services Coordinator at the Brookings Public Library, will provide us a review.
No. Well, I guess I do not know how to use the buttons, but that's okay. So my name is Michaela Nybauer, as he said. I'm just here to report on our Black History Month proceedings at the library. We received a grant for these events through the American Library Association. Their Libraries Transforming Communities Focus on Small and Rural Libraries grant. And part of that grant is that we report what we've done and what we've learned to the community and to city officials. So we were one out of 100 libraries selected for this grant during this cycle, which is an amazing opportunity for us. The grant's goal is to help give library workers skills and resources to serve their small communities. So we received $3,000 to host various Black History Month events and a community conversation in the library. So this grant also included facilitation training to help with leading that conversation. And when applying for this grant, I looked at the Brookings Human Rights Commission's African American listening session. This session revealed that Black Brookings residents wanted to see more education on Black history and culture. They wanted to feel a sense of belonging and erase stereotypes and have white allies in the community that they can trust. So I based this month's programming on how we could address those needs and concerns. I don't know if there's PowerPoint available, but no.
Michaela, it appears your PowerPoint did not get loaded into our presentation.
Okay, that's
Our
A-okay.
apologies.
Don't
I
worry
would
about
note-
it. I'm just making sure.
Okay,
Okay.
I would note it is in the packet, so.
Okay,
people
so
can
if it's in the
follow along.
packet, you guys
Yeah.
can see it anyway. So we hosted 7 Black History Month events, everything ranging from historical presentations to a documentary screening and discussion, and a big gathering celebration later in the month. So my greatest goal throughout these events was to give Brookings residents the skills and mindset that they need to be better neighbors to those outside of their own bubble, and also expose them to new cultural and historical information that can spark that curiosity and willingness to connect with others on a deeper level. These skills and this knowledge are ways that residents can continue to be actively inclusive and eager to learn about diverse subjects year-round, not just during special times like Black History Month. So during all of these events, we actually had a total of 156 participants throughout all 7 events. And there were some challenges, as I'm sure you guys have heard. The library had a Zoom bombing event at one of our talks, our Negro Leagues baseball talk with Phil Dixon, but we continued on and did not let that act deter us from presenting an important, informative program. And we did have some major successes, including our Black History Month celebration, where we had 62 participants ranging from small children to retirees from all backgrounds in between. And they gathered to appreciate and learn about Black history through soul food, activities, presentations, and the like. We also ended the month with our More Than a Month community conversation, where attendees discussed what they had learned from the topics addressed throughout Black History or our Black History Month events. And the attendees collaborated so we could take concrete steps to being a community that is committed to making Black history and culture, as well as inclusivity and diversity, a priority year-round. So at our More Than a Month community conversation, we had 20 attendees, and throughout the conversation, we discussed what challenges the Black and minority communities in Brookings are facing. Our attendees brought up that microaggressions and outright prejudice and hate are a real problem, as well as people in minority communities not feeling welcome, which they addressed leads to talent leaving our town. We also discussed some of the challenges that non-persons of color in the city might face that might cause some of those prejudices or that lack of inclusivity in town, such as lack of exposure to other diverse groups. We don't always have that one-on-one connection, and we don't always have opportunities to see that humanity. And we also sometimes lack self-education, meaning that non-persons of color sometimes don't always try to learn about minority cultures and issues, don't engage in anti-racism, and often expect minority communities to do that heavy lifting and take on the burden to teach us. So while we did look at the challenges, we also looked at some of the strengths the community has and how we can use and improve those. Some of the strengths they brought up were having information on renters' rights and other things that the Human Rights Commission has put out. They said that was a great benefit to the community, as well as the 211 service, and also having cultural opportunities at SDSU. We ended the conversation by talking about how we can address those concerns discussed. So we talked about looking into building some sort of program to show new residents around Brookings or have a point of contact that can help them out and let them feel welcome. We also discussed hosting more gatherings like Juneteenth and like our Black History Month celebration to celebrate culture and expose people to new ideas and new community members. And we finally talked about having more honest conversations with each other to help us all learn about topics that we might not be familiar with, or discuss the barriers that we are facing to being inclusive. And we realized also that the strengths we mentioned before could be improved on as well, such as making that vital renters' rights information more available and accessible in places that people might frequent more, like the library, and also finding more ways to bring cultural opportunities to the general public rather than confining those diverse events to campus. In the end, we voted as a group to address the issue of lack of self-education, as we as a group believed that the work we aspire to do has to begin at the bottom. We plan to partner with the Brookings Inclusive Collaborative, which is also working with the Human Rights Commission, to host small group multi-week community dialogues at the library based on a model used by SDSU in their The Differences Dialogue program that happened a few years ago. So each group would be led by a facilitator who would ask open-ended questions about diversity for participants to reflect on, and would prompt participants to explore topics that they might be uncomfortable about or confused about in a safe, judgment-free zone. These discussions would continue for a few weeks so that participants would be able to get in depth on those topics and build connections and grow with their community members. This initiative would also include facilitator training and diversity training that we would offer at the library, free to the community and open to the community. Our group will be organizing future meetings to follow through with this plan, and we will be reaching out to other community groups and organizations so that we can have further input and resources to pursue this goal. So that's a little bit about what we've been doing over at the library. It's been an extremely busy month, but a very productive month, and we've gotten some great feedback on what we've done. So thank you. Yes, if you have any questions. Yes, ma'am.
You're probably aware of this, but pre-COVID, we used to have a diversity potluck
Yes.
every month. So I'm hoping that someday we will
Yes.
feel safe enough to start that up again.
I know
It was
the
a
human-
wonderful event.
Yes, I know the Human Rights Commission is talking about that, thank goodness. It's just been pushed off and pushed off. So I hope to see more events like that too.
Thanks, Mayor. Well, Michaela, I would just note, first of all, that I appreciate the work you and the staff in the library have done, not only to plan these events, but also to secure grant funding. I think it's an outstanding achievement that we're one of 100 libraries in the country to receive this funding for an important program that might otherwise not have happened. So I applaud those efforts. I serve as a liaison to the Brookings Economic Development Corporation through the council. And one of the conversations that we've been having in that organization over the last several months, and I'm sure it predates that timeline too, is just how we continue to invest in diversifying our workforce, how we encourage more young workers and learners to stay in Brookings, a generation of folks that value diversity in a community, and maybe would make that decision about whether or not they move to a community or stay in a community. I think one of the challenges for that group is engaging with the population to say, the Brookings Economic Development Corporation wants to know how we can help folks of a diverse background
you
feel more
need?
connected, right? But I think a program like this feels maybe more approachable and easier for folks to attend and have honest conversations. So it seems like there could be some connecting points there between
sure.
what you learned from these programs and maybe the community you're developing around these programs and entities in the community like the Economic Development Corporation. So, I'll take this back to that group.
Yes,
I think you
please.
learned some things that would be valuable for lots of entities in our community
Of
in an
course.
environment that probably felt safer and a little easier to engage than maybe other environments that we might try to create. So thank you for that.
Yes, I would love to engage with any of the committees in the city. Whatever we can get behind on our team, we're all for it. So
Okay, any other comments or questions? Holly?
I just want to say thank you for the work that you and others have done to make this month possible at the library. I think it's a really great program to see, and I especially appreciate your willingness to kind of move forward, even in the events of everything that took place with the Zoom bombing and everything. I think that just proves that we need more events like this in the community. Being that this is at the library, I wonder if there is a place other than to maybe walk into the library. Obviously, that would be a resource. But if there's a place online for a list of books that folks could read, if really the area where we want to start is at that ground level in self-education, I wonder if there's a list of resources for folks. to
sure.
find.
So for Black History Month, I did put together resource guides for each event that we had. You can find them on our website. I think if you scroll all the way down to the bottom on our homepage, there's a little tab for Black History Month. And there are books for each event. We had the documentary that focuses on the prison system and the 13th Amendment. So there are resources tailored to that. Same with all of the other events. But if you are looking for like a guide to anti-racism 101, something like that, that is something we could definitely put together easily. We do have multiple book bags, which are our book club little kits that have like 5 to 7 books in them. And Brookings Reads for Change, I want to say, is the group that donated some anti-racism titles to that collection. So those are available to the community as well.
I think that would be absolutely fantastic. And also maybe to see a list of those resources for children, even very young
Yes.
children, because as a mom of young kids, I would love to have books to be able to share with them
Of
that
course.
starts this learning early.
Of course. We would love to put that together for you. That's kind of something I like doing, so.
Okay. Joey?
First, I want to apologize for my watch Sorry about that. I was trying to get it to shut off, but um, but thank you for all the hard work you do. You guys are doing an amazing job. And I too would like to see more conversations about things and move forward with that. So very, very good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have any more questions for me, my contact information is on your slides, not up on the board, but on the slides. You can email me with comments, questions, suggestions anytime you like. So
Thank you, Michaela, for your effort and making the best use of that grant.
thank you.
Okay. We have no contracts or change orders this evening. We have no first readings, but we do have some public hearings and second readings. Item 10A, public hearing and action on Ordinance 22-007, rezoning Track 1 Mendel Family Addition from an agricultural A district to a business B3 heavy district. Mike Struck, our Community Development Director, will review this item for us.
Rezoning request is for a tract of land along 22nd Avenue, just north of the and the bike trail. It's property that is owned by the Brookings School District, and they are intending to construct a bus garage, transportation facility, and some offices down at this particular location. Last year, we did a comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use into this area to a urban medium intensity. The rezoning request is consistent with that comp plan amendment. This does come to you as a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission, and the Development Review Team and staff support the rezoning request, and I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Thanks, Mike. Open the public hearing on this item. Is there any public comments? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Is there any council questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Collins,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, item 10B, public hearing and action on Ordinance 22-009, rezoning Lot 2 of Block 13 of Morningside Addition from Residence R1B Single Family District to a Planned Development District. Mike Strucker, Community Development Director, will review this item also.
Thank you. This is a rezoning request to rezone a parcel of property along 22nd Avenue from a R1B Single Family District to a Planned Development District. There's a comprehensive plan amendment that was changed this area from a civic use to an urban medium intensity type use. This was heard at the Planning Commission last fall. The original request came in for a B2 zoning. The Planning Commission wasn't comfortable with that B2 zoning request. They felt in this area, when you looked at the other zoning along 22nd Avenue, it was predominantly in the B2A or residential component. So they encouraged the applicant, or kind of steered him to seek PDD zoning designation. With the Planned Development District zoning
Seems to be working.
designation,
All right, thanks. Yep, bye.
with that PDD designation, what it did is it provided them the opportunity to restrict some of the uses that would be allowed in the underlying zoning district. Now, they were seeking B2 zoning as the underlying zoning district, but they eliminated some of the uses. And in particular, one of the things that was of concern to the Planning Commission was a drinking establishment. They didn't feel that it fit in with this kind of neighborhood commercial, with the other properties being B2A. As part of the Planned Development District process, it's a multi-step process. An initial development plan is required to be submitted with the rezoning request. This is the original initial development plan that was submitted. They were working on trying to get an access easement with the adjacent property to the south. That was not able to be achieved at the time that action was taken at the Planning Commission. And so this was the original proposal. The Planning Commission did recommend unanimous approval of this. However, the staff and the Development Review Team were not supportive of this particular plan. In particular, we didn't feel like the parking area flowed well with the drive-through. kind of dumping out right into the parking lot. But if you get to that south end of the parking lot, there's not really a good turnaround area without mixing the traffic with the drive-through traffic. There was some concerns with the layout is typically with a planned development district, it provides a little bit of flexibility to the developer in exchange for enhanced site design and overall design of the project. When we looked at this, this is very traditional B2 zoning, and so there are some concerns there as well. I guess with that, after the last meeting, we talked with the developer, the applicant. He came back with two options on a revised site plan. The first option that you see on the screen there does bring the building a little bit closer to 22nd Avenue. It does have the drive-through coming around the south side, exiting in front of the building, and then heading north back towards the access point. Does account for a little bit better flow through the parking areas and the drive-through. And then the second option that was proposed kind of provides a little bit of an L-shaped, also does a better job of flow on the site from a parking and drive-through perspective. However, the parking areas are a little bit limited. So with all of that background information, there are options that were provided in the packet as far as options to consider tonight. You can certainly approve it as it's presented. You can make amendments to it. You could deny it, move the item to a study session. You could discuss it, take no action, table it. Another option that wasn't provided in the packet but is an option to consider is if you feel that a planned development district is appropriate in this area, you can certainly approve the rezoning part of it. However, if you're not comfortable with the initial development plan, you could certainly defer that back to the Planning Commission because it is kind of a multi-step process. With the rezone is done by ordinance, but the initial development plan is approved through a motion second and then majority vote of the council. The initial development plan provides some assurance to the applicant that they can move to their final development plan, which is approved at the Planning Commission level, and it gets into more of the fine tuning of the site plan, but it gets into more of the architectural details of the building itself. So that was an option that wasn't laid out in your packet, but is an option to consider if you so choose. But as I mentioned, this comes as a 9-0 vote from the Planning Commission, but the Development Review team and staff do not support the request. I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Thanks, Mike. Open this to a public hearing on this item. Is there any public comment or does the proposed, all right, come on up. State your name and address, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Hogan, the developer. Okay, so going along with what Mike said, so I've got two conceptual plans that was updated, and going along with what Mike said, these are just conceptual. If I've already met with an architect, and I'd continue to meet with an architect, and we'll work through versions, and then continually to go back to planning and zoning to optimize the building and the parking and the drive-through, all those details, and continually to go through planning and zoning to get all that ironed out.
Okay. Does any of the council have questions or comments to the proposal, to this gentleman? Councilmember Wendell.
I appreciate the effort you've gone through in adjusting the plan. I would say for me the new versions you brought forward still don't really fulfill what I was hoping to see, which was the parking not situated as close to 22nd Avenue and not being a main feature of the layout, more of the building frontage, which neither of the two options that we saw tonight seem to do that. And so I'm wondering if there's a barrier I'm not recognizing that just prevents shifting the parking all the way to behind the building, as the overlay district really kind of calls for.
Sure. Then that begs the question, are you okay with the drive-through coming all the way along the front of the building?
I think one of the things I'm curious about is like the layout that's on the screen right now.
Yes, which there's, if you look at the dimensions, the measurement, I just asked the drafter to, put an elbow in there, let's see what it looks like. Because look, we got 22 feet on the back, we've got, 31. So there's a lot of room to play there.
Part of the reason I ask about that is if, let's say on the top of this storefront, if that part of the L was in the bottom along 22nd Avenue, and that was the storefront that had the drive-through,
Sure.
that would probably accomplish more of what the overlay district is trying to accomplish, which is more building frontage.
And I'm not opposed to it, and I could talk with planning and zoning to see if that front drive-through, if that's acceptable, if they like that idea, the way it flows, and then move more parking to the back. The way it's shown, like I said, it's conceptual, and I'm not opposed to other ideas, but it does mimic the new Starbucks.
Just from staff's perspective, I would say by moving what Councilmember Wendell is saying, building facing the front,
Yep.
and having the parking, the drive-through in the front, that does meet the spirit of the overlay district. And it would be similar to Starbucks. But when you refer to Starbucks, it's because the majority of the building faces the front. In your case, you have more parking than building facing the front. And that's the difference there. And so I would say if that building was shifted, it would meet the spirit if the parking was in the rear and the drive-through was in the
Okay.
front.
Do you know the length of that Starbucks building? Because the front is about 40 feet. Do you know how long it is?
I don't off the top
Okay.
of my head. Once again, you have more parking and parking stalls presented here in your conceptual
Sure.
plan
Right.
than what was provided on that one. And once again, PDD is considering your specific plan and, of course, how it impacts the overlay district as well.
And you're referring to the commercial corridor, right?
Correct.
And I believe that just says that no parking can be in front of the building. I think along the side of the building, as long as it's not in front, is acceptable, right?
I would have to defer to Mike, but once again, the building would have to mainly face the front, and then you do have some glazing requirements as well as masonry requirements as well. I guess, Mike, would you like to speak to that?
Want me to move?
With the commercial corridor design review overlay, it does have like a build to setback line, which is equal to the setback. We do allow you to project 10 feet into that setback as long as there's no parking. Now, with parking, they can't exceed the front plane of the building. You can be on the sides, the rear of the building. So there, there's some options here if you rotate the building, or even as suggested, take the 1600 and put it to the front, or you could pretty much rotate the building counterclockwise and have the long 1600 square foot along the south side, but then still have those two others that would be to the north. But then your drive-through could loop around in front of it, be kind of in front of all three storefronts. I think the potential benefit for that is you do give 22nd Avenue street exposure to all the businesses, where if you rotate the building per se clockwise and have the one long frontage along 22nd Avenue, the two businesses to the west potentially don't have that same exposure. I think there's some things that the applicant could do with their site plan to achieve that. I think the question, and I'm kind of sensing that you're comfortable if the drive-through is between the building and the street frontage, you're okay with that. It's typically pretty minimal, 12 to 16-foot wide driveway. It'd be one-way traffic. The other challenge that we ran into a little bit with this site is you can't see it on the overhead right now, but Yorkshire Drive is across the street to the east. Staff was really concerned about location of the access drive. We wanted it pushed as far as north as possible to create some separation from that T intersection to the east. There's only one access that would be allowed. That's why we were really trying to push working with the neighboring property on a cross parking access or cross access easement agreement. That wasn't achieved, but I guess if you feel any of those options are worth exploring in more detail, the applicant certainly could.
All right, go ahead.
Can I ask a follow-up question since Mike's at the mic? I want to make sure I understand the sequence. I appreciate the work that the Planning Commission and staff have done to shift from the B2 district to a PDD. I'm supportive of that. I want to make sure I understand what would happen if we did approve. I know you said this, but I wanted to clarify. If we approved the planned development district this evening, assuming that the layout and design work would happen at the Planning Commission, does it then come back to us for final approval?
If you approve the zoning aspect of it, then the zoning is in place, but the initial development plan, if you defer that back to the Planning Commission, the initial development plan needs to come back to City Council for approval before they can proceed to final development plan. So it's a two-step process there, and then the third step would be the final development plan.
So if council wanted to do that per se, Mike, would they say we would recommend approval of the zoning and maybe amend that to send the actual
Initial development.
PDD design back to Planning Commission?
They would,
Consideration.
yes, they would do approval on the rezoning, and then they would make a motion to refer the initial development plan back to Planning Commission, and have the applicant, rework the site plan. And then once the Planning Commission would review it and provide their recommendation, it'd come back to City Council. Then if you approve that, then they can move forward with their final development plan, which only goes to the Planning Commission.
So then it doesn't come back to council?
Not the initial development plan would, but not the final development plan. So the initial development plan is really the site plan. And then the final development plan is taking that site plan and they're getting into the details of their landscaping plan. And then they also have to submit their wall elevations and details on the architectural side of things for their building.
I would only comment if that's a route council decides to go. It would be good to give some narrative to it so the Planning Commission could understand the direction council is considering.
Okay, council member.
Just request a motion.
All right, so let's go with that. Close public hearing, entertain a motion to approve.
Can I clarify my motion?
What's that?
Can I clarify the motion?
Yes.
Okay. So I would move to approve the strict zoning element of this, but then to send the initial design plan back to the Planning Commission.
Okay.
I would
Is there a
second.
second? Been moved and seconded. Is there any council comments?
I'd provide some narrative as the city manager. And I'm supportive of the rezoning effort. I think we're getting there. I think we're having lots of back and forth, and I appreciate the role that the Planning Commission will play in that work. I don't have an interest in getting out into the weeds of the landscaping work and what happens in the final design plan, but I take heart in the fact that the initial design plan would come back to us so that we can make sure we feel comfortable with the fact that it aligns well with our intention of the overlay district. And I think that's what we're trying to accomplish.
I would just kind of echo some of those sentiments that goes back is that it would kind of display some of those elements that the overlay district kind of outlines. I think there's reasons for why we implemented the overlay district, and I'd like to see some of that reflected.
You on?
I'm on, yeah, and I've
Would you like to
heard the
make any comments,
conversation,
or
and
do you have any questions?
it's a little hard to hear sometimes on the deal, but it's no, I like where we're going with that. That we just don't want to be in opposition to the whole plan, but we do think we need to conform to some of our basic guidelines. So I'm in favor of what we're talking about.
Okay, thanks, Wayne. Councilmember Brink.
Thank you, Mayor. I was concerned about the traffic patterns quite a bit, the left turn lanes, the Yorkshire conflict. If I'm understanding Mike correctly, moving that exit to the farthest north part of the property is the best option for mitigating that? Okay. Generally speaking, I'm in favor of projects like this, and we want to see business, grow and develop in this community. And so this is just one of those issues where there's some intentions and there's some plans, and we're like we said, getting closer here in the details. So I'm supportive of the direction that we're taking with that understanding.
Okay.
Working forward.
Okay, since the motion has changed a little bit. Councilmember Collins, you got any questions, comments?
Just one real quick. Talking about up here, do you think that you'll be able to cover that and do that with the changes to the building and things like that?
Yeah, I think the site should be able to accommodate if we move that drive-through line all the way to the front, slide the building up. I would think so.
And also,
Yeah.
what Mike talked about too was showing off the other two buildings too to the front somehow. I can't remember how you talked about doing that, but
I think
that'd be important too.
I think if it's okay with the city council, I think staff can work with the applicant. I think I got a pretty good feel for the intent, and that we can maybe try a couple of placements of the building to see where we can achieve good functionality, flow, and meet the intent, and then present something to the planning commission and get it back to the city council a couple meetings from now.
All right. Please call the roll.
Tilden Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen, for the work that you've been putting in so far on this.
Thank you all.
Okay, item 10C, public hearing and action on ordinance 22-010, rezoning outlet 1, excluding the north 40 feet and excluding H1 in the northeast quarter section, 1-T109 north to R50 west from a agricultural A district to a business to B2 district. The north 325 feet of Lot 1, Richard Price First Edition, from a residence R3A apartments / mobile homes / manufactured housing district to a business B2 district. And the south 325 feet of the north, 365 feet of the northeast quarter, excluding platted areas in section 1-T109 north R50W, with a residence R3 apartment district to a business B2 district. Mike Struck, our Community Development Director, will review this item.
Reading all of that, I'll try and simplify it for everyone. So at the intersection of 22nd Avenue and 20th Street South, the southwest quadrant on the screen above in red, that is the area that is subject to this rezoning. This is something that's consistent with our comprehensive plan of allowing urban medium intensity down in this area, which does support a B2 zoning request. We saw some of this, earlier in the year. I think property owners are starting to gear up for the exciting interchange project, and the city is intended for this area to be commercial once that interchange project really gained momentum, and we just see this as another commercial area for the community. This does come to you with a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission. The Development Review Team and staff support the rezoning request, and the applicant is in the audience tonight if you have any specific questions, but with that, I would stand for any questions you may have.
Thanks, Mike. Open the public hearing on this item. Is there any public comments or questions? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any comments from council? Questions? Councilmember Avery?
No, I'm okay.
All right. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tilton Burn.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 10D, second reading and action on Ordinance 22-008, authorizing supplemental budget appropriation number 2 to the 2022 budget, parts 1, 2, and 3. Ashley Wrench, our Deputy Finance Manager, will review this item.
This is the second reading of Ordinance 22-008, authorizing supplemental appropriation number 2 to the 2022 budget. This ordinance has 3 parts, and there have been no changes since the first reading. Part 1 carries forward $25,318 that were unspent in 2021 due to factors such as timing of receipt of supplies or equipment and projects planned or started in 2021 that are continuing progress towards completion in 2022. Part 2 involves new initiatives funded by the city's surplus from 2021. This increases budget authority by $1,148,466 and includes initiatives such as contingency funds for COVID-19 related expenditures and inflation, human resources efforts such as employee development, recruiting and hiring, and risk management, expenditures related to grants and donations towards the Parks Department and library, and additional legal fees, marketing initiatives, supplies and equipment, repairs and maintenance, and labor costs are also part of Part 2. Finally, the items in Part 3 are priority initiatives funded by the use of city reserves in the amount of $261,641. In the general fund, this includes $25,000 as an increase toward our mental health agencies and our social service agency funding, and $20,000 for exploration of opportunities for marketplace development. In our enterprise funds, we have adjustments for increased property and liability insurance, as well as increased utility costs for natural gas, and $172,000 for equipment-related items at the landfill. Finally, we will be increasing our contracted services budget in the Swiftel Center for $41,000 to fund a feasibility study, which will be paid for by our Third B tax. Because of the city's conservative balanced budgeting strategy, we're able to fund these new initiatives and priority items while maintaining the reserves at the levels dictated by our city financial policies. Our budgeting strategy has also afforded the city the opportunity to pay for critical city facility repairs and build reserves for future large projects while reducing the need to take on additional debt. Appendix A, included in your agenda items, contains a detailed listing of the accounts that are affected by this ordinance. And with that, I'll stand by for any questions. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ashley. Just so everybody knows, Eric is also on Zoom to help back up Ashley. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, does the council have any questions or comments? And maybe this is an answer that Jake could answer for me, is we're figuring $172,000 extra for operations, equipment, and supplies. Is there an item that we weren't able to purchase last year?
So out of all of this, I'm the one that gets the question. Thank you for that, Mayor. 22,000. One of the items we looked at is actually 98,000 for a vault out at the leachate system for the landfill. So the leachate system is essentially the garbage water that comes off of our cell that collects into a vault, and we have to move that on. We have found that we have a 30-year-old vault that is, frankly, accumulating stormwater, and we've had some significant corrosion. There were a couple of Band-Aid repairs that we could have done at a smaller scale, but after consulting with our consultant out there, Burns & McDonnell, we felt that a full rebuild of that vault was the best utilization of our funds to avoid future issues with that stormwater runoff. The additional funds there are for the warranty and service package on our new compactor that we bought. That's about $1 million piece of equipment, and going into that purchase, we knew there was a plethora of different options, years, and costs associated with that. We wanted to take our time to engage our mechanic as well as our fleet management program to determine which level of warranty and service would be best justified use of dollars to ensure the longevity of that piece of equipment.
Thank you, Jake. Appreciate that. Questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Avery,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tiltonburn,
Aye.
Wendell.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We have no other business. Council member introduction of topics for future discussion. Council member Tilton Burn.
I don't have another topic to introduce. I just want to say good luck to the Jackrabbit.
Did a good job trying to win their spot this afternoon, but to no avail. Congratulations to the USD Women's Program, and hopefully they are successful in the NCAA tournament. We might still have a possibility in that, from what I understand. If not, we have the opportunity maybe to be in WNIT. So, the upcoming meeting, we're a little light. We've got one contract and change order. We have no first readings as of right now yet, and by sounds of it, we may not have a progress report. I'm very disappointed. So, anyway, I don't think I've got anything else either. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Meeting over.